like your state police here. They're named in the Police Services Act. And they provide police services in respects of the parts of Ontario that did not have a municipal police force. And then there's another group of people in the Police Services Act, the Independent Police Review Director. So there shall be an Independent Police Review Director who shall be appointed by the Lieutenant Governor. There's another person, top man. The Lieutenant Governor is like the queen of the police. And just so you know, they can monitor their police stations, and it says that if a police station is being investigated, the investigator shall not use force to enter and search a station or detachment of a police force. The oath of office for all of Her Majesty. The Chief of Police has duties ensuring that members of the police force carry out the duties in accordance with this Act. And that would mean the importance of safeguarding the fundamental rights guaranteed in the Canadian Charter of Rights, which is protection of person. So the chief's duty is that too. He's not doing it. I've gone to the chief of police. Protection of the public, same thing for the chief of police. The duties of a police officer include preserving the peace, preventing crimes and other offenses, and providing assistance and encouragement to other persons in their prevention, assisting victims of crime, apprehending criminals and other offenders, and others who may be lawfully taken into custody, laying charges and participating in prosecutions, performing the lawful duties that the police chief assigns. A police officer in Ontario has the power to act throughout Ontario and has the powers and duties ascribed to a constable at common law. So if Amanda was over here stealing her keys from me, and that was a crime, a police officer can act in common law and not need a warrant. Criteria for hiring police. This is in the Police Services Act. Is physically and mentally able to perform the duties of the position, having regard to his or her own safety and the safety of members of the public, is of good moral character and habits. I can see that there's a lot of police that don't fit this criteria, and I'm not trying to bash the police, although it's easy to do. I want their help. So if, say, Virginia Beach Police had a problem, and say we were in Canada, and they called in the military, well, Virginia Beach Police would then pay the portion of the military that came here. So I'm just going to read the emergency part. And maybe this might seed some thoughts and actions. So I'm sure that the laws that I'm reading about here in Canada and Ontario are very similar to your laws and laws everywhere else, because it's all based on preservation of life and property. In an emergency, the Solicitor General, so that's a person who we can have criminally charged also for failing, may make an agreement with the Crown in right of Canada or another province with any of its agencies of the province for police services. Expense of calling out Canadian forces. If the services of the Canadian forces are provided under this section, the municipality in those territories the services are required shall pay all the related expenses. Now, I've talked to police officers who said that dealing with an airport would cost way too much. And he's probably meaning that the military would have to be called in and they just wouldn't have it as a budget. So I'm going to ask and suggest that everybody get their municipality to call the military in so everybody can share the expense of paying for the military to do it, rather than one city alone taking the whole thing. Section 81 of the Police Services Act. No person shall induce or attempt to induce a member of the police force to withhold his or her services. Or B, induce or attempt to induce a police officer to commit misconduct. No member of the police force shall withhold his or her services. Well, I would say they're withholding their services by you not being able to have a discussion with them about what you call a crime against humanity, which is what I would call a crime against humanity. So I'm going to suggest, and I don't want to do this, but the police are criminals and they need to be put in jail. And hopefully that they're listening to this and they need to realize that their duty is not to their commanding officer. Their duty is to the Constitution. Now, I really don't believe in a lot of the Constitution in terms of some of the stuff. Oaths of office. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, so help me God. Now you want to talk about a family that's got it made for life? Here's something else about Her Majesty too, the importation to Canada. This is the Customs Act. Subject to sections 2 and 3, any duties, fee, charge, or other amount owing payable under this act is a debt due to Her Majesty of Canada. So that means if I'm crossing the border and I have to pay a duty, well, the duty becomes a debt due even though I never created a debt. It just is declared a debt, and that's the way they can collect by taking your car or house. The same goes with the excise tax. So in talking about misleading people, I'm going to read portions of the excise tax. And I'm just going to take words. For the purposes of this part, a person is a financial institution throughout a particular taxation year of the person, if the person is a bank, if the person is a corporation, if the person is a credit union, if the person is an insurer, if the person is the Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation, if the person is an investment plan, if the person is a corporation. So person, I'm really careful with that word person. It does not mean man or woman. Don't be fooled. The Interpretation Act, which is Her Majesty's way of trying to interpret everything. The law shall be considered as always speaking, and where a matter or thing is expressed in the present tense, it shall be applied to the circumstance as they are, so that the effect may be given to the enactment according to its true spirit, intent, and meaning. So, the Bill of Rights, Constitution, it's all there. We have it. You want to talk about ensuring the powers that be, to stay the powers that be, the Canadian Bank of Canada, the capital shares shall be divided into 100,000 shares of par value $50, which shall be issued to the minister to be held by the minister on behalf of Her Majesty. The Royal Canadian Mint, the shares of the Mint are not transferable, and when issued to the minister in accordance with this act shall be registered in the books of the Mint in the name of the minister and held by the minister in trust for Her Majesty. Human Rights Code. Whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world, and is in accord with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as proclaimed by the United Nations. Here's another good one. The Civil Air Navigation Services Commercialization Act. This act applies in respect of every aircraft in Canadian airspace or any other airspace in respect of which Canada has responsibility for the provision of air traffic control services. This act is binding on Her Majesty and right of Canada. So guess who knows what every plane is? RCMP, that would be like your CIA. There shall continue to be a police force for Canada which shall consist of officers and other members and be known as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Qualifications, good character. Every officer is a peace officer, and every part of Canada has the powers, authority, protection, and privileges that a peace officer has by law. And their duties are preservation of the peace and prevention of crimes and offenses against the laws of Canada. Okay, so I've done that part. I want to show you some pictures and then I'll try to wrap it up right after that. Yeah.
Did you show the other video? No. We'll show it in the end. He told me to yell out to him while he's speaking if he missed.
Okay, so. These are the snowbirds. These are the show planes that Canada uses around the world. These are your planes. Let's take a close look. You see right there, top corner? That's a nozzle. Right there, that's a nozzle. What does that nozzle do? It sprays. That's how they do it on aircraft. Okay? Brothers and sisters or cousins in the show, the nozzles are doing it. Nozzles, two of them. One for red, one for white, for the show. Nozzles, can you see them? Is it visible? One for red, one for white, in line with output exhaust. And so now I'm going to show you aircraft.
No, we gotta go right back. Show this one. We're gonna get one by one. Yeah, show it.
One good one.
Okay.
That is on every plane. The wing has an engine. It's held by a strut, very short. The engine's here. The nozzles in line with its output. So I could be more on how they get them in the aircraft.
Yeah, okay. You want to Okay.
All right, guys, that was Jack Barron, and as you can see, his information is extremely detailed. Now you see why I stole all of it and put it on my Facebook page. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and take a little hour break. We're right there in the meeting room next door.